Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our San Diego Humane Society Rescue Partnerships Training and how we can work better together. Today, we are going to be talking about our rescue department and how they collaborate with shelters and rescue groups to save more animal lives. We will be covering a few stories of how these partnerships have been successful and a couple of stories of how things might have gone a little bit better. We're also going to talk about ways that you can get involved to support our rescue team and help transfer animals to our partners. Today, we have with us Susie Clayton, our rescue supervisor, who's going to give you a behind-the-scenes look into the day-to-day life of her department.
Thanks so much, Liz. I'm looking forward to teaching you all a little bit more about what we do. So first off, I wanted to review our rescue team core values. We do follow the same core values as San Diego Humane Society as a whole, and here is how we use them within our department. So we have the courage to make tough decisions, seek out ways to be impactful in the animal welfare movement, maintain relationships that encourage inclusivity, and lead with integrity and respect. And what does our team do? We are a mighty little team. We have rescue specialists at each campus that are working to support our animals and the rescues in our community. We do have coverage at our campuses 7 days a week. Our rescue specialists are available to support our rescues with any animal inquiries that might arise and to schedule rescue exit appointments. We also do virtual and in-person walkthroughs. Right now during COVID, it's more virtual than in person, but we do see a lot of our rescues reaching out to us for information on a majority of our animals. Our San Diego team also supports our El Cajon campus currently, and although they're not on site, they do work very closely with those animals. Daily, our rescue specialists review an inventory of rescue candidates that have been created by our leadership team. There are rounds that are done with our medical team, our behavior team, animal care. Everyone is taking a look at all of our animals to provide them with an individualized look at the care that they might need. And our teams will conduct outreach based on these animals that have been flagged as being good candidates to go to rescue, and we log that outreach for follow-up. What else do? We wear many hats in this department. We are often found taking photos and videos to showcase our animals in the best light. We perform dog-to-dog interactions to provide to our rescue partners. We schedule surgeries such as spay and neuters to ensure they get out in a timely manner. Our Escondido and Oceanside rescue specialists also manage all of our foster tasks. And for our fosters out there, you know that's a lot of work, so they have a lot on their plate. Here at the San Diego campus, as I mentioned, we oversee all the tasks for rescue at the El Cajon campus virtually. We also support pond home adoptions, working cat adoptions, and our community cat program. Next, we'll move on to the rescue program, logistics, and strategy. We quite frequently get asked, what is the difference between a rescue partner and a transfer partner? Rescues are typically smaller and more foster-based. You'll see the animals going into individual homes rather than in a kennel setting like you'd find here at the Humane Society. A majority of these rescues are run by volunteers, although some may have some paid employees as well. The funding is often received through donations and grants, and we do require these rescue partners to have an active 501c3 nonprofit status. A couple examples of rescue partners that we work with quite frequently are Frosted Faces Foundation, Love Your Feral Felines, and the San Diego Turtle and Tortoise Society. On the other hand, we work with quite a few transfer partners as well. And these are typically kennel setting for their animals, as you see here at the Humane Society, though some may have some foster homes as we do as well. These transfer partners are often run by paid employees, although they may have volunteers supporting their needs, as we do here at the Humane Society. Our transfer partners are funded by government funds as well as grants and donations. And our transfer partners may or may not have a 501c3 status. Some of our transfer partners are the Department of Animal Services, the San Diego Zoological Society, and Kitsap Humane Society. Now I'll go over the process to become an approved partner. Rescues interested in partnering with the San Diego Humane Society will complete an online questionnaire and provide a current copy of their 501c3 letter of determination. The questionnaire is about 35 questions, and it helps us get to know what type of animals the rescue typically is able to exit and to learn more about how we can support each other. We review the references from the questionnaire and validate everything from their medical, behavioral, and kennel licensing if they have one. We reach out to the local animal welfare jurisdiction, and we review their social media and web presence to make sure that they would be a good fit to partner with the Humane Society. Once these references have been reviewed, our San Diego Humane Society leadership in all areas do review the applications for final approval. The process can take up to 3 weeks, if not longer, depending on the influx of applications that we receive. On average, we do see about 5 to 10 applications coming through our inbox each month. Although we rarely deny partnerships, there are reasons that we might do so. Inhumane and unsanitary housing conditions. We want to make sure these animals are going to safe housing and being well taken care of. Any substantiated history of animal abuse or neglect, or any unlawful history related to the care or placement of animals. As I mentioned, we do reach out to the local jurisdictions to make sure that the rescues are in good standing. Any use of transferred animal for food consumption or fighting is not tolerated. Verbal or written abuse or harassment of San Diego Humane Society staff or volunteers is also not allowed. Any documented communication of inaccurate, vitriolic, or malicious information on social media to our constituents, media, or email, maligning our organization, especially without reaching out to myself or our Director for Rescue and Recovery to address their concerns beforehand, will also not be tolerated from our rescue partners. Why do we work with rescues? We can do more together. Working with rescues, we're able to make space for all of the animals that come in as strays and surrenders daily. Right now, during COVID times, that number is fairly low, but during the summer, non-COVID times, we can take over 100 animals each day. That's quite a lot of space we need to have. Working with our rescues allows us to engage the community and work together to save more lives. Seeing our partnership will influence others to get involved. Working with rescues also helps reduce time in a shelter environment and reduces shelter stress. We've seen dogs when we walk by that may be a little bit more hesitant or reactive at a kennel front and might do better in a home setting. Working with rescues allows them to go into foster placement and experience home life, sometimes for the first time. Working with rescues allows us to share our resources and expertise. Here at the San Diego Humane Society, we do offer appointments with our vets to meet with the rescue vets and our behavior team to meet with the rescue to discuss the needs of each particular animal. A lot of the rescues we partner with also specialize in certain things, such as a breed of animal, a type of animal, an age of animal, although some do specialize in all breeds. And having expertise on a particular animal helps us to provide the best care for the animals in our care. At this time, we have over 200 rescues that are approved to be rescue partners with the San Diego Humane Society. These have all gone through the process to become our partner. Our rescue specialists also have over 600 rescues in our database to reach out to for our particular animals. If those rescues are not currently partnered with the San Diego Humane Society, we do ask that they complete the appropriate paperwork to become a partner in order to pull an animal. But we are constantly seeking new partners and rescues to potentially work with that would be in good standing. During the 2018-2019 fiscal year, the rescue teams were able to send 3,015 animals to rescue. That included everything from dogs, cats, birds, rabbits, pocket pets, livestock, fowl, reptiles, and more. What animals might qualify to go to rescue? Any animal could be qualified to go to rescue. That all depends on our needs as an organization and the rescue partner's interest and capacity to take in an animal. A rescue might be able to take in a particular animal today, but maybe not next week. It depends on their space and their capacity to provide additional medical care if needed. Animals of every species are also considered to go to rescue. As I mentioned earlier, we've sent everything from dogs to livestock to rescue. Any animal, whether it be healthy, treatable, manageable, or unhealthy, untreatable, is an option to go to rescue. These terms, healthy, treatable, manageable, and unhealthy and untreatable, are all terms that have been decided upon by the San Diego Animal Welfare Coalition. They're designations to ensure that all of our organizations are following the same guidelines as for what is reasonably treated in a shelter setting and by a typical adopter. In the following success stories, I will show you 3 animals that have been designated unhealthy and untreatable and have gone to rescue. First off, we have senior hospice chief Betty White. Weighing in at a whopping 2 pounds, this little girl came in as a stray. She was a senior and had quite a few medical conditions, including heart murmurs. And at the time, we did have a rescue that stepped forward and was willing to take on her care. They knew she would be hospice based on her medical history. However, they were able to provide her with the best 3 months of her life. They spoiled her, and she spent her days sitting in her foster's lap, getting spoiled. Rudy came into our care as a victim of an abuse case that was brought in by our humane law enforcement team. He had had several stab wounds and was paralyzed from the waist down. He also had a couple other conditions. Fortunately, we had a rescue that stepped forward and was willing to take on his care. After about 6 months, they realized that they were not equipped to care for his needs for the extent of his life. As I mentioned earlier, we do have an adoption guarantee, which is passed along to our rescues. If for any reason there's a concern, we do ask that the rescues reach out so we can discuss it and see how we can support them. In this case, they were very sad that the foster was unable to continue to care for him, and we were able to work with another rescue partner, a sanctuary, that was able to take Rudy in, and he's now living his best life among his furry friends. This is Faith, the once hairless doodle. She came into our care looking a little bit sad. She was missing fur, she had inflamed skin, among other conditions. A rescue saw her and immediately fell in love. They took her home and cared for her dermatitis, and as you can see in the photo below, she's grown it all back and she's needing very frequent haircuts. We often receive updates on Faith to see her hiking and sleeping in her new bed with her family, and we love to see these updates. Although we've had quite a few successes, we do have our struggles. For example, not every rescue meets San Diego Humane Society standards and requirements to exit animals from us. As I mentioned, those are on our website. Not every rescue agrees and is willing to abide by rescue partner policies. Not every rescue pulls animals from shelters or they might only pull from high-risk shelters. Not every rescue has the resources and capacity to pull medical and/or behavior cases. As I mentioned, some cases that they might not be able to pull today, they might be able to pull next week. It all depends on their capacity at the time. Not every rescue speaks kindly and accurately about the work of the SDHS. And we do ask that our rescue partners do speak to us if they have any questions or concerns prior to posting on social media.
All right. So although the vast majority of our rescue cases and partnerships go very positively, we do on occasion have some challenging cases that we also wanted to share with you today because we know all of our staff and volunteers want to assist us in keeping our rescue partnerships as positive as possible and seeking the best outcome for the animals in our care. So the two cases that I'm going to share with you today both occurred here at our San Diego campus. And the first one, this adorable little puggle, is named Darla. Darla was a 13-year-old stray who was brought to us by a Good Samaritan. And within the first few days of Darla being with us, staff and volunteers both shared with us that they noticed she was having some difficulty eating and she did not seem to want to come out of her kennel to go on walks. So we asked our medical department to do a thorough exam on her, and we did discover that she had very severe dental disease. In addition to that, she had pretty significant cataracts that were causing a degree of blindness as well. And these combination of conditions mean that Darla fell into that category of unhealthy, untreatable. So to reiterate, just because a condition falls into the category of unhealthy, untreatable, that does not mean that the animal is automatically scheduled for euthanasia. What it does mean is that they will start a review process, which we call the status disposition under further review, where leadership from various departments, depending on the case and the campus involved, will look at all the details that we know about that animal and decide on the best pathway for them moving forward. So in some cases, the most humane decision is humane euthanasia, but in Darla's case in particular, that was not the case. We decided that based off the totality of her review and the various medical and behavioral factors and the resources that we had available at the time, that we could go ahead and provide her the surgery that she needed to address her severe dental illness. So even though we had decided that and we were moving forward with providing her treatment, someone who I'm sure had the best of intentions did see that Darla was under that review status and assumed that that meant that she was scheduled for euthanasia. And so they on their own reached out to a rescue group and sending an urgent plea for Darla that she was going to be euthanized and could they please pull her from the shelter as soon as possible. And so because that communication came outside of the typical channels from our rescue department, that rescue group contacted us and were pretty upset that they were under the assumption that we had an animal that was being considered for euthanasia and that we had not proactively reached out to them to ask if they had the resources to pull her at that time. So thankfully, we were able to clarify for them that Darla was not scheduled for euthanasia, that we were in fact going to provide the surgery that she needed to address her unhealthy, severe dental disease. But it did temporarily cause a strain in that relationship, and some misinformation was floating about that was also exchanged with other rescue groups. And so you can see how that might accidentally damage that partnership and that relationship that we work so hard to keep positive. Similarly, with our second case here, little Peanut, Peanut came to us as an owner surrender. And when the owners brought Peanut into our care, they did let us know that he was pretty fearful of children and could be reactive at times to children. And also that they had some concerns about Peanut struggling to urinate, and they thought that Peanut may need some more extensive medical workup, some diagnostics, and potentially treatment. So because Peanut had this combination of medical and behavior conditions, and because the urinary condition in particular was probably one that was going to fall under that unhealthy, untreatable category, we did change Peanut's status to disposition under further review and started that leadership review process to decide on the best pathway forward. Before we could really even make any next step decisions for Peanut, someone again saw that Peanut's status was changed to that review status and reached out to a rescue group. And again, sure, very good intentions, just wanting Peanut to have the best possible outcome. But unfortunately, the rescue received that information inaccurately. And so they were told that this was, this dog was scheduled for euthanasia, that there was an urgent need to pull this dog from the shelter. And so this rescue reached out to us requesting to take Peanut into their care as soon as possible. So our rescue department, of course, replied to that expression of interest and sent all the information that we had on Peanut, including all his history, his behavior notes, and his full medical history with us. Because the rescue group was so concerned about pulling Peanut from our care as soon as possible to avoid what they thought was an imminent euthanasia decision, they did not thoroughly review the records that we sent, and they ended up placing Peanut in one of their foster homes that did have small children. And so within a matter of days, the foster reported to the rescue that they were having a very hard time fostering Peanut because of his fearfulness and reactivity towards their children, and they were starting to observe symptoms of Peanut's urinary condition that they did not realize at the time that he had. So that rescue group reached back out to our rescue department asking for information on Peanut, and we resent them everything that we had sent them initially with all the medical and behavior details. And once they reviewed it that time, they realized that the care that Peanut needed was beyond the resources that they had available. And so they did ask to return Peanut into our care, where we then had to start the leadership review process all over again for Peanut's case. So we share these slightly challenging scenarios with you because we know that as staff and volunteers, you also want the best outcome for the animals, and you want to work in partnership with our rescue team to support them as needed to get the best outcome for these particular cases. So we're going to talk to you a little bit more about how to ensure you're doing that. So the key takeaways from these cases are that there are usually a lot of factors that come into play, and not all of them are obvious just from observing the animal in shelter care or even interacting with the animal. You know, we have staff and volunteers who care for animals every single day, and they may still not know every single detail involved in an animal's case review. So it's important to not make assumptions and to really reach out for clarification as needed. Also, it's important to remember that every animal is assessed on an individual basis, and particularly for animals that have unhealthy, untreatable conditions, our leadership is highly involved in monitoring their needs and their reviews and deciding on the best possible pathway for them. So just because an animal has an unhealthy, untreatable condition does not mean they're automatically scheduled for euthanasia. It really is going to take into account every aspect, every detail that we know about that particular animal on an individual basis. And the rescue team is the department that is most in the loop on which rescues are approved and partnered with us to exit animals. And they also know what rescues are looking for specifically. So we have had rescues share with our rescue team that they only want to be contacted for certain types of cases. So if we have someone, a volunteer, a staff member, the Good Samaritan who brought the animal in originally, if we have them reaching out to rescues for one of the animals in our care, they may be reaching out to rescues that have asked us not to contact them for that particular type of animal. And so you can see where that could bring challenges up. So in summary, our rescue team works very hard to have as many rescue partners as possible and to keep those relationships as positive as possible and really provide a streamlined and organized and successful experience for those partners. So we want to make sure that when we're trying to assist animals who may be good candidates for rescue, that we're doing that through our rescue department so that they can maintain those positive relationships. So for our volunteers watching this, it's important to know how to best come to volunteer engagement with questions or concerns of any type, but particularly around which animals might be candidates for rescues or which rescues we might be reaching out to on a particular animal, or sometimes volunteers have suggestions of rescues to look into. So the best way to go about sharing this information or inquiring about this information is through what we call a volunteer observation form. So this form is available both on site, like physical paper forms that you can write on, as well as e-forms. And those e-forms are linked everywhere. They're on Volunteer Impact, they're on our volunteer blogs that we have for each of the campuses, they're linked through our volunteer Facebook group, you name it, we've got it there. So these forms, whether it's the physical paper form or the e-form, allow you to share information about individual animals or to ask questions about individual animals. So let's say that you interacted with a cat during your shift and you notice that that cat seems particularly fearful, shut down. Maybe you feel like you haven't seen them eat, so you're concerned that they may not be eating normally, and you feel that this is behavior related, and you're wondering if they got transferred to a rescue group who could place them in a foster home, might that improve the condition? So in that scenario, you would want to fill out a volunteer observation form, give us all the information that you've observed. So tell us specifically what you saw that was concerning to you about that cat's behavior. And then also ask any questions, which might include, is this animal a candidate for rescue transfer? Or have you contacted rescues about this particular animal? Or have you considered this particular rescue as an option for this cat? All of those are questions that you're welcome to ask. We just prefer that you do it through these observation forms so that we can be sure to track that information and get you a response and update you on the animal's progress as needed or requested.
How else can volunteers help support the rescue team? We're always seeking ongoing support and love when we get new photographs uploaded into an animal's profile. You might not be a professional volunteer, you might just be on site meeting an animal, seeing an animal, interacting with an animal, and you can still upload those photos via the Adopt Me app, and they'll get uploaded into the animal's profile. This is one of our favorites because it really helps express the personality and sometimes the goofiness of each animal. Clerical projects. This is not necessarily the most fun option, but it definitely does help support our team. We recently had a project that required scanning and uploading documents for our team, and it really helped us to focus on the animals that needed a little bit more support and helped us to catch up on some of our outreach. So these opportunities are shared through Facebook, the Ops newsletter. Just keep an eye out for these options. We also have some transfer projects. Here are some photos from Wings of Rescue where our amazing volunteers have stepped in to show us some support. There are opportunities for these as Wings of Rescue is a transfer partner that both transfers animals into our care as well as out of our care. The photos you see here from some recent flights into our care. Animals were being moved to San Diego away from some hurricanes in the Delta. And it was a pretty quick turnaround. We asked volunteers to come and help us both at the airport and also with crate cleaning. Again, not very glamorous, but it makes a huge difference for our teams. So no matter what your position is as a volunteer at San Diego Humane Society, you're always welcome to join us for these transfer projects. Keep an eye on the Facebook page and emails for these opportunities. Last but not least, transport drivers. Our team works really hard to find rescues that can take in animals, and sometimes they're not so close to home. You're welcome to sign up to receive volunteer transport notices and volunteer impact, or watch the volunteer Facebook page for opportunities. When I discussed this with our teams at all campuses, they all agreed that transport drivers make a world of difference.
So thank you everyone so much for attending this training. We hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit more about the behind the scenes of our rescue department. If you have any questions related to rescue or animals that may be good candidates for rescue, if you're a volunteer, please don't forget to utilize that volunteer observation form. And if you're a staff member, please don't forget to reach out to your supervisor. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you again for attending, and we'll talk to you soon.